Bang! Welcome back to the number one podcast in the world. I am joined by musician extraordinaire with absolutely no genre because he can do them all, XMPLA, or also known as Aaron James. Let's run it.
Man, I pull up like Uber, living my life is super. But when the gov try test me, then I see red like rhubarb. Don't get a twisted like a few barbs, wheels spinning like hula. Man, I leave a trail of dust in a bust through, yeah, like who's a G? Now I'm seeing red like Rudolph. If you turned off, then who's on? I got that pain in my chest, oh yes, so I guess it's time for a new song. Red or blue pill user, your mind is young Greek cruisers. I choose to elevate through the noise, and man makes an album for bloopers. Looking at what you can't see, though. Looking at what you can't see. Looking at what you can't see, though. Looking at what you can't see. Looking through the corridor, info, yeah, need a storage wall. But I still see what's on top of your head, the fence ain't unstoppable. If you wanna follow the leader, that's all good, but see the wood in the weight would smash that plastic waste. Yeah, I give him a smack from my key card. What I just want you to see, cause soon you will all be on B-Pass. I see the betrayal like Peter, I need to believe my stripes when I cover my details. Ayy, looking at what you can't see, though. Looking at what you can't see. Ayy, looking at what you can't see, though. Looking at what you can't see. Yeah, hold up, see the glove is in my way. I see the glove is in my way. Yeah, I got that glove and I got that pain. I got that rug and I got that rake. See the glove is in my way. See the glove is in my way. You spilled that blood and it's in my face. Looking at what you can't see, though. Looking at what you can't see. Looking at what you can't see, though. Looking at what you can't see. Yeah, why they care which arm I'm getting when it's arm I'm getting? I wanna show you how much big farm I'm getting. I stay strapped up, showing what arms I'm getting, and then I spray like what these farms are getting. On my heart, I shed and I restart, cause everything smart is everything blast. I'm letting you know, cause I'm about to blast off.
So how the fuck do you know how to do that? That is crazy.
I don't know, it's just words. And they sound similar. They rhyme, so you kind of put them together. You kind of assort a whole bunch of rhymes in time and try and make it sublime.
Nice.
Yeah.
I feel like this whole podcast is just going to be flowing now.
It could be.
It could be it.
Yeah.
This could be like your next single. Just this whole podcast cut up.
Mate. Yeah. I'll remix it. Don't say that because I actually do it.
You will?
Yeah.
That'd be fire. So, I mean, where do I even start with you? You're a musician, you're a rapper, but you also do like deep house and you produce and you're just a pure artist. Is that the best way to describe you?
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah?
I just make stuff.
You just make stuff?
To put it simply, yeah.
Yeah. So how did you get started just making stuff? Like, is that something you think you're innately born with, or?
I feel like I was always a rebel child. So I was always going against the grain and just trying to do my own thing. I never really fit in school. So my outlet was music, and it started with drums.
Right.
And then it progressed as you go on, and as you get older. When I started clubbing, I was exposed to electronic music. And, you know, clubbing for me was a form of rebellion as well.
Yeah.
You know, really, really taking it to the max.
Were you a party boy?
Yeah, I was a party boy. Yeah. So, you know, and then I kind of settled down a little bit and found my passion in producing music.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a short attention span, so I'm going from one genre to the other. And just out of necessity, I kind of started to like film my own clips and really try and expand on it's beyond the music. It's like, oh, I got all these beats, now I need either someone to sing on it or I'll sing on it.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I'll rap on it now. So then that's how I got into adding vocals to my tracks by just having all this canvas, the beats, and then getting into that. And then the next stage is the visual. It just naturally progressed one after the other.
Yeah, because I think that's what's really interesting about you. You'll find with a lot of, especially mainstream artists, that they tend to stick to one kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, Dua Lipa has a very distinct sound and style that she just sticks to no matter what. It's that very poppy, happy girl, good vibes, summer energy. Or you know, there's just so many cliches within it. Like, you know, Gunna's only ever going to rap, or a classical artist is only ever going to play the piano or some kind of classical instrument. But once you start seeing these overlaps of styles and genres and, you know, you see these fusions, that's where you really start to see new art being born.
100%.
It's quite amazing. You know, I know Avicii was very, very well known for that. Like his ability to incorporate genres that you would never expect into electronic music. Like he put in country music, which had never been heard of prior to him.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, like Kanye West is an inspiration. J. Cole. Like they're making the beats and rapping and singing.
Yeah.
And that's where I drew a lot of inspiration from. I was like, I want to do that. Because, you know, you have total control over the whole production.
Yeah.
You know,
it's you through and through.
Yeah. And look, I have nothing against collaborating. It's just when you're in your own space, you're creating your own world, and sometimes people can't mesh into that. So it's just different.
So do you make every beat? Do you make every like do you make all the music? Do you make everything all the way through?
Everything. Yeah.
That's fucking crazy. There aren't many artists doing that. Because it's so easy just to buy, like, you know, sample beat or sample track and then just...
I just always thought to just make it. Like, I was a bit of a purist in the beginning. I was like, I got to make all my sounds from scratch. So I learned to sound design. You know, me and my mate would have, like, sound design off battles, like dubstep. Yeah. Who can make the filthiest sound? And that became our thing. It was just like, check this out, check that out. As filthy as you can get it. And we tried to, it was like almost like a battle with sounds. So that was a good foundation for production, you know? So then it's like, why would you ever buy a beat when you're limited to, and it costs money? Everything costs money. You're paying for something. So, but when you invest in yourself, you know, you can make that tenfold.
And how are you? I mean, obviously you're very musically gifted and you've worked hard at this craft, but
appreciate that.
For someone who's coming in and looking at your world like through a completely naked lens, if you will, because I've got no understanding of the music production world other than what I've been shown.
Yeah.
And I see just the layers and layers and layers of thought and melody and drums and piano and all these different elements that kind of, once they're all synchronized together, make this beautiful flowing sound, and then you're adding vocals to that. But to kind of start from scratch and not really know what you're doing, how do you find these pieces and go, that's going to sound good with this?
So initially, how I actually really got into producing was I was hearing songs in my head and I didn't know how to translate that into a waveform. I didn't know how to make that into something tangible. So that's what led me into trying to create the beat. And you make a lot of trash in the beginning.
Yeah.
You find your way. You got to calibrate to your imagination. So that takes time. You got to understand over time what sounds work together. Because sometimes you're fighting for something to work and it just doesn't work. Like you're picking this sound and that sound. You're trying to like carve it and make it work together. But really, you just need a different sound.
Right.
And then it works together.
Yeah. And that must be such a frustrating process as well.
In the beginning, but after a while, it's kind of like singing. When I'm in the choir, like the guy's telling me, you got to hear it before you execute. If you're just throwing stuff out, there's a chance it might not work, which is fine. That's perfect. But if you know what you're going for, it's like, and that applies to anything. If you're doing video, if you have a vision, you're then just selecting what works.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to just make something work.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a recipe without the recipe.
So where do you think the ideas come from then? Like when you have that kind of, oh shit, I've got something.
I think it's some kind of divine channel intervention, because it's something that you can really tap into and you can lose. It's like an on or off switch. There's kind of not much of an in between.
And so how do you get in touch with that divine?
Look, it's not as spiritual, I guess, as, one might think when I say that. But it is either creating space or it's having something to talk about, having like an emotion that you want to express.
Yeah, but I feel like everyone kind of has an opinion or everyone has something to say, right? Like social media is the catalyst or the highest example of all of that. It's just noise. Everyone thinks they've got an opinion. Everyone thinks their opinion matters. But there's certain individuals and there's certain people that can just, I think, not only think and feel deeper, but then express that in a way that's impactful and meaningful. And I've spoken to a couple artists before, and some of them really endorse psychedelics, and some of them really endorse meditation, and some of them really endorse religion. So I'm curious to know, like, where do you attribute that inspiration from?
I think like I said, a divine kind of channel intervention, whatever you want to call it. But you don't have to necessarily be religious to tap into it, because we all get ideas. It's just about how you use those ideas, because artists have to be the link between the things that we can't understand in the world to make people understand and mesh these ideas or these concepts into a form that is like digestible, like an emotion, like trying to get the emotion of love and put that into a song so someone else can understand that without words. Sometimes even it could just be the sounds that are conjuring emotions. So
yeah, it's a real skill, I think, not only to have the ability to paint the canvas per se, so whether that be in a music format or a video format or a poetry format or whatever the case is, whatever your canvas is, but I think there's a real skill in being able to put yourself into that zone where that you're conducive to those ideas, when you can have those divine interventions.
Yes.
Like I've heard of artists in the past that will literally get into toxic relationships and get their heart broken and feel destroyed, so that when they're at that kind of pit of despair, if you will, they're able to produce their best work, or what they think is their best work.
Yeah. I've been in both modes. We all have. I find I produce better in a happier state. The sad songs, they sometimes don't get finished because I don't stay in that state for too long. So
right.
If you don't get that done within that period of despair, then when you come back to it, you can't, when you try and re-record those vocals or add something in, you're not feeling that anymore. So
it's not authentic.
Yeah. And it's not a place you want to be in for too long. For me anyway. I found that the best music I made was when I was happy or just myself. And when I say creating space, it's like vulnerability, being able to express yourself and not be too concerned about the judgment, because you're opening up to a deep part of you. So you have to be vulnerable, which allows you to be open and receptive.
Were you always like this? Like, were you always open and willing to kind of put yourself out there?
Essentially, yeah. I think in one form or another. I think so, yeah. There's always a drive to like do music or do something creative, and just it's just that spark. You never lose that spark as an artist. So yeah, I think I've always had it. It just changes form, you know, or it develops. You always develop.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of potential artists out there that kind of don't know how to foster that spark, if you will, because the world we live in isn't very conducive of artists. It's not very, I feel like that avenue of being an artist isn't very supported until you've made it, you know? So like there's a high emphasis on STEM classes in, you know, especially in high school, you know, so science, technology, English and maths, like that's where our focus kind of is. And if you don't fit within that kind of framework, I can't imagine that schooling experience is, you know, going to be supportive of becoming a musician, for example.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, if you surround yourself with people that are living in fear, whether it's conscious or unconscious, they're not going to see something that takes 10 years that doesn't have a certificate at the end of it. At least a law degree, it might take 5 years, but you'll get a degree at the end of it.
There's tangibility, there's concreteness to it. Yeah.
But when people around you haven't done it themselves or haven't aimed for something like that, they're going to project their insecurity onto you. And then artists take that on themselves. Then they start to get that insecurity, which actually never came from them. It just always came from someone else. They just embodied it over time, and then self-doubt.
And so how do you combat that? Because I'm sure there were people that projected their insecurities onto you.
100%. Sometimes you just got to go through the motions. You just got to like deal with it, be upset about it, and then get back on that horse.
Yeah.
Like the best advice I could give anyone is it's like, doesn't matter how hard you can get hit. It's pretty much, it's a cliche for a reason. But, you know, even if you're off for 6 months, if you just get back on, you're just picking up where you left off.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean you have to just get up straight away. You can go through the motions and, you know, take your time, process it. But then there's also other things as well. Like when you look into developing yourself as a person and you look into like psychology and stuff like that, there's other things that you can unpack just as a human being that will help you in, because we get doubts. It's natural our lizard brain is wired to fear. It's our most primitive part of the brain. So it's going to always look for threats.
Yeah, they're the two driving forces of life, right? It's pain and pleasure. So our brains are wired in a certain way to avoid pain and gain pleasure.
Exactly, yeah.
But I think if you kind of put it on a spectrum and you kind of look at it and say which one's going to be the more driving force, it's like the ability to possibly make $1 million or the ability or risk of losing $1 million. You know, I think for the vast majority of people, that fear of losing $1 million is a far bigger driver.
Yeah.
It's that survival instinct to avoid pain, to avoid the tiger that's going to come out from you in the jungle, or to avoid, you know, that bush that might have poisonous berries on it, you know, from
exactly,
you know, generations and generations and generations of survival. I think the issue with that in the modern landscape now is though that we don't live in times where our lives are constantly at threat. We don't live in the jungle. We don't live in the Sahara Desert. And so we should be able to take more risks because we're safer. Yeah.
Or just at least reframe what the risk is. Because like say with COVID, we can't see the risk. Or with modern day risks, we can't see them. It's not like a tiger coming out of the bush or something like obvious.
Yeah.
It's a lot more subtle and sometimes a lot more elusive, like social media. You know, comparisonitis, all those kinds of...
Comparisonitis, I like that. I haven't heard that
They're
before.
subtle and that's the thing. A lot of those things, they kind of eat away at you. but it's not a threat as such. That's why drugs are such a thing, because people want to avoid pain. A lot of people don't want to deal with their reality, and I was a classic example of that.
Were you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so nothing too major, but like, you know, struggled with my own addictions and got through them. Thank the Lord.
What was your escapism? What would you use?
Well, in my party days, it was like MDMA.
Yeah.
And then it kind of was more subtle and slow burn form after that, with marijuana, with weed. Look, I got mixed feelings about it, because it's like, oh, it relaxes you, but when you see what it does to the body, it really stimulates you. You know?
Really?
Yeah. Really dilates all your blood vessels and everything like that. And, you know, so it was just making me anxious. It just giving me panic attacks and that.
Really?
It's like, you know, but you become somewhat of a slave to it, because it's your vice, your crutch. It stops becoming what you thought it was, because a lot of times, like, we romanticize, you know, the things that that's not good for us, whether it's a relationship or drugs or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's interesting though, because I do know a lot of artists that will, you know, often utilize the psychoactive proponent of weed to inhibit more of a creative flow, if you will. So like take any, or essentially almost all rappers, you know, it's very common for them to smoke a joint or have an edible before they go into the studio and record, you know, like it's everywhere. Everyone from Lil Wayne to J. Cole to JID to Snoop Dogg, you know, it's everywhere. So I'm interested to hear your stance on that.
Look, I think the strains or the quality is very different in America. It might be, you know, like say Snoop Dogg in Jamaica, like the weed there is a lot lighter, a lot less THC.
Right.
It's a lot more even balance between CBDs, the cannabinoids, and the THC. Whereas here, the way it's like improperly grown, which is like most agriculture now, there's like 10 times more THC than normal. So you're not getting the proper balance to kind of the cannabinoids to kind of mellow you out. You're getting a lot more of and some people could argue that that's, you know, better, but it's just not a natural occurrence.
And do you think that's because, you know, people that do grow weed, generally speaking, have to go through so many loopholes, and, you know, it's a very straight thing here in Australia. It's obviously not legal. So there's a lot of backyard projects going on. I've heard stories of
100%.
people spraying like mosquito killer on it to give it like that crystallization, and, you know, like it's a street drug at the end of the day, like until it becomes legalized and, you know, I guess regulated.
Yeah.
To a standard where it just has to be done a certain way.
Yeah, there's a lot of backyard projects, and honestly, like the quality of some of it could be worse than some other hard drugs.
So was there a moment where you kind of said to yourself, oh, like I'm way too deep with this?
Every day.
Really?
It was honestly like,
How much were you smoking?
it wasn't even that. It was just every time you're kind of under the influence, for me personally, it was just kind of like, I shouldn't be doing this.
Right.
You know, and then when you're sober, you kind of like, you want to do it. So it's a form of insanity, because you keep doing the same thing, but expecting a different result, you know, until you make a drastic change.
Why did you feel guilty about it?
Just because it puts you in this vulnerable state where you feel like you feel like anything could happen or something bad could happen or you feel like you're not in control as much as you should be. And it's not a fun place to be in.
Right.
And whether or not that was like kind of set off more by the abuse in the past with other stuff, like when I did LSD, like my experiences were so intense that I went to hospital and I had these kind of, I felt like I crossed over and it was just way too intense. And I was just like, after taking, because I think after taking LSD, there was one, it was like the third time I did it, I got my first proper panic attack. And then I started getting panic attacks after that moment. So then weed would set it off or something like that. But it wasn't until having that LSD trip that it really set it off. So.
And were you kind of like in a clubbing environment when that happened? Like
I wasn't in a house. Yeah. And
around a lot of people?
Just two close mates.
Right.
And I think that's more intense because when you're boxed in, you have to go outwards. Whereas if you're in a clubbing environment and there's more going on, you're a bit more distracted, a bit more in the moment. So, yeah, it's not fun.
Yeah,
it's fun. I mean, it's a very profound experience.
It's a fine line.
Yeah,
it's a very fine line. Like, you know, and I think that comes with, I don't want to say all drugs, but most drugs, right? Like maybe you can make an exception for heroin or hard crack or something, but I think for most drugs, there's kind of this playground kind of zone where you're just enjoying it, and then once you cross over that threshold, and in your case you get hit with that panic attack instance, or you know, with people that smoke weed, there's there's an increased risk of schizophrenia. There's a harsh reality to it, like.
And that's what I was saying, that romanticizing of that. Most people won't admit that it's like half the time they're having a bad time, or they don't tell you about the come down, or how during the week they just feel awful. They're like, yeah, it's so good, but I forget the downsides of it, which is, just like a bad relationship. You can actually just ignore the downsides. Like they say, like total elation is actually just a complete ignoring of the downsides. It's not that.
I guess
it's
that is true.
It's not that everything is perfect in your life, but it's just that you're just unconscious of the downsides.
So do you think perhaps that your personal relationship with drugs in that sense is, I guess the point that I'm trying to bring up is that I think your personal experience with drugs, and in these instances LSD and weed, were very conducive to you and your upbringing and your experiences in life. But I think there are a lot of people that perhaps wouldn't have those experiences.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it was more scary for me.
Yeah.
Because you feel like you lose control. In the sense, not that you can't like control your motor functions, but you just don't have control of reality, or you kind of don't, you're not aware of I guess we're still not aware of the barrier between
whatever's out there.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what a lot of people are drawn to about these things, right? Is it kind of brings you to the door, and maybe not so much with marijuana, but I know definitely with LSD, not from first-hand experience, but just from hearing enough stories about it, and mushrooms, and a lot of psychedelics in particular, that almost seem like they're this gateway to something else.
Yeah, a lot of people are seeking a spiritual experience.
Yes.
And, you know, with the degradation of churches and some religions, they're not getting it from that, so they have to go elsewhere, because we have a innate seeking to find a spiritual experience, or a spiritual connection.
Yeah.
I think everyone has that.
I think everyone has this kind of innate understanding that there is something more out there. and I think people that kind of ignore that or choose to say, I focus on the tangible reality, look, see, smell, taste, and touch aspect of life. It's like, yeah, absolutely. That's a vibrant and colorful and, pleasurable experience for the most part. But I think there's just this feeling amongst people where it's like there's these energies that are just transferred between people, and whether you want to call that God or the Holy Spirit, or whether you want to call that the universe, or whether you want to call that souls or ghosts, or whatever your terminology, whatever your phrasing is for it, I do think a lot of people out there feel that there is a connection between you and I, or not just you and I obviously, but the people that you're surrounded by, that extends beyond I can see you.
100%. And I think like, I was lost my train of thought there.
No, let's go. We're talking about religion, and it's kind of how, because of the degradation of religion, people are more drawn towards the psychedelic route.
Yeah. What was I going to say? I completely forgot.
No, that's okay. The only point I wanted to bring up on that was, though, that for a long time in human history, a lot of these churches, and I don't know about Catholicism specifically, but I do know a lot of churches and a lot of religions actually utilized psychedelics as part of the experience.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's like a, ayahuasca, like a ceremonial experience.
Yeah.
With that. Even say, because I'm Christian, Catholic, even just like the whole Eucharist, that's a ceremonial experience. So like when they bless the body and blood of Christ.
Right.
But it's more subtle in the sense that people they don't start like freaking out or
tripping out on the floor.
And I think with my spiritual experiences, it's subtle where you could always deny it. And that's what I was going to say. I remember what I was going to say, that people that live in the tangible, like you were saying, say like more basing things off science or statistics, are still using something to explain their life, their surroundings, their world. Because we have a need to explain or have a why or have a purpose.
Yeah.
Well,
I think as well, people are just drawn to the fact that there's predictability in it, so if you can run an experiment 100 times and get the exact same result 100 times, then there's predictability in that outcome.
Yeah.
And I think because we live in such a crazy, unknown, wild universe, that sense of predictability is quite comforting for a lot of people. And I understand it. Look, it's not like we're sitting in a podcast studio and there's science all around us, and there's microphones and there's wavelengths and there's furniture and there's tables. So obviously it has a lot of impact on our day-to-day lives. There's no denying that.
Yeah.
I just think it becomes a bit disingenuous to only look at that aspect of life.
100%. Because J. Cole said science can tell us how, but they can't tell us why. It's true. Like you said, you're only getting half the equation, and not everything has been mapped out. So, because you can prove something right, there's so many other variables.
So what do you think is out there? You're obviously Catholic Christian.
Yeah.
What do you think happens? Like one God, one creator that just made it all.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Whether or not, like, he could have created the Big Bang and that's how it started. I honestly don't know, because I wasn't around at that time. So I'm not going to try and even attempt to. But you can interpret scripture many different ways. So you could take it as face value, Adam and Eve, or you could think about it in a different way. Some people say it's like atom and electron.
Huh. I haven't heard that one before.
Look, and it's just...
Okay, can I ask, where do you sit with Adam and Eve?
It's kind of... I get mixed emotions about it.
Yeah.
Because my thing was like the first thing people did was broke the law.
It kind of fits our character if you think about it.
Yeah, exactly. Straight out of the gate, we just did the wrong thing. So,
What's the thing I can't touch? All right, let's grab it.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then we want to either blame the serpent or, you know, is it the serpent's fault, or is it just at the end of the day we have to take accountability for our own decisions, whether or not it's someone else's fault or not. So I think there's a bit of that understanding in that. That's the thing, you can get so much insight and wisdom out of the scripture rather than just looking at it at face value.
I struggle a lot with the idea that scripture in particular should be taken in its literal sense.
Shouldn't.
I struggle with that a lot. Like to say that there was two people and then the whole world came out of that, you know, like that's a tough sell. You know, no matter how strong your religion is, that is a tough sell.
Well, everything's got to originate from somewhere.
Of course.
There's got to be a pinnacle. So whether it's an analogy or whether there was a birth in the spiritual realm and then it kind of transcended to life. But at the end of the day, it's not that far-fetched when you look at the universe.
Yeah, okay, there's crazier things out there. Yeah, you could definitely make that point. I think where I really sit with it is that as human beings, we use anecdotes and stories to convey messages, right? So I might use a story to convey something to you, but it doesn't necessarily mean its literal sense. I mean, we still use it to this day, whether that be in, you know, movies or books or Instagram posts or whatever. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean that thing literally happened, but we're using that tool to convey a message. And I
100%.
think because any religious scripture is, maybe other than Scientology, any religious scripture is so old and so ancient and such a relic of time that the storytelling analogies were just lost throughout lots of generations, you know? So there might be kind of like some form of symbolism that we're completely missing in stories such as Adam and Eve, for example. And then you also have to factor in there's a lot of political shifts that would have happened that influenced the scriptures as well, right? Like kings conquering kingdoms and, you know, rewriting passages and things getting cut out and put back in. Like there's the human element to it that influences a lot of the content that's in there. But I also think that there is huge amounts of wisdom, and I think there's huge amounts of intelligence that is age old, that extends beyond you know, even our modern civilizations now. Like there's just universal truths that are kind of embedded in the fabric of who we are. Like, for example, don't do unto others what you'd have done upon yourself. Or is that how it goes? Do unto others what you'd have done upon yourself. Like there's just some universal fact in there that like, hey, if I treat you well, it's going to be better for the both of us because you're going to like me to treat me well, and I should treat you the way I want to be treated. It's such a simple, tangible, real, practical rule, but if you really look at the scale of where that could lead us, there's a lot of wisdom in that. And you don't see it exclusively in Christianity. You see it in Buddhism. You see it in the Quran. You see it in Hinduism. It's obviously there's something there.
Well, yeah, it's like if I treat you poorly and then I ask for a favor, I'm not likely to get that. Doesn't matter what religious stance we sit on. If I treat you well and like care about you or whatever like that, and then I ask for a favor, just as a random example, you're more likely to help me.
Of course.
More likely. Not saying you wouldn't if I was a dick, because say when you get deeper into, say for me with my faith, I realize that some people are doing things unconsciously, or like they're more hurt to be hurting someone else. So then you start to elevate to a point where you're less affected by and more willing to help people that treat you poorly. Like, because the scripture takes, or Jesus takes things further. because it says if your enemy drags you a mile, walk with them another.
Yeah.
So it takes it a step further, like ultimate thanksgiving. So being thankful in every moment, even the hard times. It's hard.
Yeah.
Like that's like next stages. And with the confusion with scripture, I've had my own confusion, but Jordan Peterson he explained, he goes, the Bible is like the first hyperlinked text. So you can go and check other writers to confirm certain things, critical things.
Yeah, that's a really good way of framing it.
So
He's great like that. I love Jordan Peterson.
Oh, he's
great.
Clean your room.
Make your bed.
I'm gonna have my shoulders back. Sorry, Jordan.
Yeah, you think of him, you're like, oh fuck, am I doing everything he says? He's great for accountability. No, I hear what you're saying for sure. I love the concept of religion and I love the community aspect of religion. I don't think it's perfect. I don't think, obviously you're going to get bad apples in every community, right? And that's something, unfortunately, that does taint the image that it has. Where I sit with it more so is that, because I've been through the religious route, I went through an Anglican school for like 10 years of my life, so I'm very familiar with a lot of the text, and it's probably not fresh in my brain. Like I couldn't quote you something like that, but it's there. The concepts are there. For me personally, and where I sit, I find more of the idea that we are one shared entity per se, experiencing the universe over and over and over again, and that we're almost like fractals, expanding outwards, but we all come from the same source point. That's where I sit with it more so. But I mean, you could make that source point God, and
exactly,
it would make sense.
So the thing with the different denominations is that people wanted to do it their own way, and then a new denomination formed, Protestantism, protesting, because he wanted to marry.
Yeah.
And the Pope excommunicated him. So he started a new church, and then he got rid of the sacraments. He took the power out of I'm not bagging anyone out because I know it's a touchy subject, but like, there's different stages that the churches went through. There's actually 7 stages, and it's all outlined in Revelation, and we're in the last 2 stages of brotherly love, and I think it's falsehood as well at the same time, because there's a lot of false teachers arising. So,
but haven't there always been false teachers?
I guess closer towards Jesus's time, there was more direct apostolic teaching through the church fathers. And then over time, like with the Great Schism and everything like that, things started to, like the East and the West, Orthodox and Christianity or Catholicism, they separated, created one major division. When the government formed the Roman Empire, I'm pretty sure it was, that was another... so I'm going to butcher it, but like that was another change. So everything kept diverting slightly from the original teaching. So sometimes you might be going to a church, but you might be getting 70% of the truth. So,
well, I mean, look, it's littered with examples of that. I can't remember exactly what the time period was, but at one point the Catholic Church was charging people for entry into heaven.
Yes.
Or in some form of another. They had to pay for a certain thing, and then they'd get a miracle from God. And I mean, you see that now. Like there's guys that are on television and say like $7 for a miracle, and they're hilarious. But it's kind of sad in the fact that you see that it's real and that people do fall for it.
They're leading people astray.
Yeah.
They're false teachers, and the Bible warns of that.
Or as J. Cole would put it, false prophets.
False prophets, false teachers, same thing, I think. And that's the thing, we need discernment. This is not just like you read it, all right, I'm sweet. This is a lifelong commitment to trying to understand your own self, even not talking religion.
Yeah.
And it's deciphering, and looking in the deeper meaning of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as an artist, you're naturally going to be able to search for meaning. You're naturally going to have more tendencies to connect emotions to words and really digest things. Whereas, for a commoner such as myself, we kind of just read it and go, oh, well, that's what it says. Yeah, it is what it is. How do you feel like your experience, obviously, I assume that you utilized or you found sobriety through religion?
Second time, like me being completely clean now,
Yeah.
I'd attribute to that.
Yeah.
Whereas before, it was more trying to will it, and it was a bit of an on and off.
Right. Yeah.
So it wasn't consistent. But I think truly coming back and understanding things properly and properly surrendering to it, gone.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. And there is a lot of merit to that. Like a lot of people talk about that. I know in AA, they utilize 12 steps. They're just highly influenced by the Bible and the biblical teachings. Do you feel like now that you've got not new, but a more profound religious take on the world, do you feel like that influences the music?
I just don't rely on my own understanding.
Right.
At all. Some of the time. Like, obviously, naturally you will. But it's not all on me anymore. I've got someone to kind of lean on and guide me. Because at the end of the day, if he created everything, what do I know in comparison to someone that sees everything going on all at the same time, And a lot of that, even if you didn't believe, if you just surrender, it takes a lot of stress away from the burden being on having to control everything. Like OCD is like having to control everything.
Yeah.
Having some form of tangibility. And then when you surrender that, you're a lot more free. Sometimes, like, people think freedom is being able to do whatever you want. But freedom is not having to do anything that you don't want to do, or that you are I'm kind of butchering it, but that you're kind of free from any vice or addiction or need.
I think there's freedom in discipline. I think being a disciplined human being, and I think holding yourself accountable to everything, you'll find freedom through that. And they kind of go, it's almost like a juxtaposition in a sense that, people associate freedom with being able to do whatever you want, and people associate discipline with doing things that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
But I think in doing things that you don't want to do, you feel like you have the freedom to do whatever you want.
Yeah, like, say, classic example is sugar. You might attribute that or associate that to a certain food. That has a pull on you in certain moments.
And you're caged by that pull.
So that's not freedom. You have the freedom to choose to do that. But because you're in a tug of war, that's the lack of freedom.
Yeah. Whereas if you're disciplined in your ability to say no to the sugar, then you have freedom.
Yes. It's paradoxical.
Yeah. So you mentioned choir.
Choir.
How did that come about?
Quite profound, to be honest. I kind of just fell into it. I kept getting people just being like, oh, you should come to church. And then this other person I haven't seen in years, oh, you should come to church. Weird things that just like, and I just found myself going to this particular church, and then I was running ads for Let Go, my last single. And one of the guys there, he found it. And then
And were you public about your religious perspectives at this time, or were they just random people kind of just saying, come to church?
No, this was random people.
Right.
Well, they kind of knew. One of them knew, but like, I didn't think they'd have any reason to kind of invite me off their own. Maybe they did. Yeah. But hearing it twice in the same week from one guy I haven't seen since school, and another one, just another close friend of mine. Like I was saying before, very subtle. You could always dismiss it, but And long story short, being in the choir, like going back to my music now, like is just taken it another step further. And I feel like when you really diversify or just learn something that's got nothing to do with your craft.
Well, with choir singers, right, it's a very disciplined kind of style. Like there's certain notes that you have to hit and that there's a certain range that you have to be in. Like it's a tough thing to be a choir singer. Like perhaps it sounds almost stupid to say, but like from a skill set perspective, like you actually have to be quite skilled to be singing in a choir.
Well, the musical terms harmony and unison.
Right.
Unison is when two notes are played together.
Yeah.
It could be an octave apart or together. And harmony is everyone harmonizing. I'm sure you know that one. Just that in itself is pointing to that everyone has to be in sync.
Yeah.
Like to a certain degree. If someone is out, that's dissonance to a certain degree. So, you know, there's a level of synchronicity and flow that also taps into like the creative aspect as well, that flow state.
Yeah.
That I think when flow and the technique and skills meet together, that's when it's...
So do you think like joining the choir helped you sharpen your technique then? Like do you think it helped
100%.
you? Yeah.
100%. Because the leader of the choir was seeing things in me that I couldn't see in myself. I wasn't giving myself enough credit for what I do. And then just that little bit more confidence, and it's like, oh, I can do this or I can do that, or bringing out when they see the potential, that's even more powerful.
Right.
They see where you can end up.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm always comparing myself to where I am right now, which is a problem with social media. Because I'm comparing myself to like 50 people that are showing their highlights at one.
And are hyperachievers probably, right?
Hyperachievers, or they just, you don't know what part of the time or how long it took them to get to that point.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something we're all guilty of, man. I mean, I do it. I see people that I admire and that are 10 years into a journey that I've just started.
Yeah.
And it's like, damn, like I can't believe they were able to do that, you know, but it's never from I guess in the way I kind of interpret it, it's never from a place of bitterness. It's never like a place of like, screw you, I should be doing that.
No.
It's just like almost admiration. And then I think because of that admiration, you kind of have that self-criticizing emotion that kind of goes, well, why am I not there? What am I doing wrong? Why am I not good enough? And those are very common thoughts that a lot of people have a lot of the time.
Well, we have such a hustle culture, and society, I think, I mean, I don't want to speak for society, but places a big importance on like hustle culture, or at least in like the YouTube space. So you tie that into whatever you're doing and you always feel like you're not doing enough. And then comparing yourself then to, you know, what other people are doing, that's the perfect storm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And you, like you said before, there's always that highlight reel, like people don't really know what's going on. Like for a lot of people that create out there, it's just, you know, my best photo in the best lighting or my best video, but everything was scripted. And I think there's a real emerging market now for authenticity. I think that's selling really, really well.
Yeah.
And it's so easy because you don't have to put anything on. You don't have to do anything. You just have to be prepared to be authentic and honest.
That's why a podcast like this is perfect for that.
Well, I think for someone like you as well, who is so prepared to be vulnerable and authentic with your audience, I mean, that must resonate with them, right?
I think so. I do get people reaching out and saying like heartwarming things.
Yeah. Anything that's moved you in particular?
Not the whole like I was about to.
Yeah, no, nothing dramatic like that.
But it was
sometimes.
Sometimes it's just like I listened to your song 20 times in a row.
Yeah,
and it's like wow, like I thought people wouldn't listen to it more than twice or once, and they come and say it was 20 times or 10 times or it's on repeat. It just takes you into a bit more of reality as well. Because what we were saying before, people are also comparing my highlight reel and getting upset maybe about my highlight reel.
You have a really sick highlight reel.
I'm not bigging myself up, but I'm just saying that we all go through the same thing.
Yeah, I know, but I'm going to big you up a little bit here. You have a sick highlight reel.
Thanks, man.
Like you've done a lot.
You've
done a lot. I mean, I probably should have qualified you an hour ago, but I mean, you've done music festivals, you make crazy music videos, you do album covers, you make insane music, like you're just a creative in all fronts. You're not limited to one canvas, which I think is quite incredible. And it seems like every canvas that you jump into, it's like you have a signature. It's like, oh yeah, that's his work for sure.
I don't know. They say that the most powerful thing we have is our imagination. So we just got to utilize that, I think.
Do you mind if we pull up your Instagram just to
go for it?
Let's jump on.
Let's do it.
While Sian pulls that up. So when you feel like people are comparing, so jump on search XL.
It's right there.
Yeah, it's right there.
XM.
Oh, sorry, XML.
It's all good.
XMPLA, yeah. I mean, man, this is some crazy, just visually, from a visual perspective. Mm-hmm. And I guess because I'm more so on the video front, that's what I'm naturally going to be more drawn to. I know the attention to detail that goes into these things. It's not like you just did this in 10 minutes.
I don't take credit for all of that. But yeah, it's a lot of it's curation or creation, but I do work with some amazing people as well.
Yeah.
Like the Let Go artwork was a guy from Morocco.
Right.
The tattoo, my sister actually designed that album cover.
Can you pull up that tattoo? Lower, bottom right. There you go.
Yeah, so my sister designed that.
That's really cool.
And my mate, he got it as a tattoo for my birthday kind of thing.
That's awesome. You've got a solid mate.
I know, right? And so I guess that's another one of those crazy moments.
Is that like a single cover or something?
Yeah, for one of my singles called Better.
Right. So you actually got your single tattooed on.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. That's like OG level right there.
Far out.
So
oh fuck, how did you up that for his birthday?
I got a tattoo of him on my I mean, I don't know what else you could do,
right? Oh, but yeah, I mean, even like these poppy natural colors, like they're really cool, man. They're really cool.
Yeah, so those two photos there, my sister, she's an amazing photographer.
Oh, really? She's a creative as well?
Yeah, 100%. Graphic designer and photographer and artist as well. So I do bounce a lot off her as well.
It must help so much, right?
100%. Just having someone to be like, does this look good?
Yeah.
They're like, nah, or yeah.
Yeah, you need someone brutally honest as well.
You do. Because it's like, it either confirms what you know or it takes you out of your delusion.
Yeah.
So honestly, I couldn't do it without my support.
I think when you look at something for too long, like if I'm on Photoshop for more than 3 hours looking at one piece, after that 3 hours, I'm like, I don't know, the whole thing looks horrible. It looks great. It's done. And then I'll show it to someone and they'll be like, fuck.
Well, it's like the whole concept even of, the contrast slider. You only have contrast when you have something to compare it to.
Yeah.
So same thing goes when you're looking at for something for too long. Those sounds that sounded bright in the beginning are now dull because I have nothing dull. I have no silence to compare it to. Same thing applies with most mediums.
Do you find that your relationship with your sister is very bonded over that creative process?
At times, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like when you're creating something with someone else, it's like a different level.
Yeah.
Because
you're co-creating.
Yeah. And like, because what happens is the idea goes to them, simmers, they come up back with something better, and then sometimes you bounce it again back to them. And if the more you do that, I mean, not necessarily, but you could just, even doing that once is powerful.
It's almost like a tennis game of ideas.
Yeah, and that's why I want to start a mastermind, because I think that if you consciously sat down to come up with ideas with people that had somewhat of a common goal, you know, you could just accelerate.
So how do you conjure those ideas? I mean, I know you alluded to it a little bit before with the divine intervention and stuff, but like, let's say it's something like "Let Go," right?
Yeah.
Like one of your latest song.
Latest song.
Latest song. Let Go. Like, what's your process? Are you sitting down consciously, like writing out your lyrics? Are you listening for a beat?
That one, honestly, that came out of heartache. So that was like during a relationship and just being torn, because it's very juxtaposed between bright chord, dark chord, bright chord, dark chord. It's like kind of shows the relationship is going well, goes bad, goes well, goes bad. It can turn, like, it's kind of, so I tried to show that in the sounds itself. But like, I'll have like, I basically have a sound library, a palette as such. And if I hear one sound, I know exactly what that song's going to sound like. If I just hear that, especially like I collect all these atmospheric pads, it's like, you know, as soon as I hear it, I'm done. That's it. Like I could just finish the song. So you have triggers sometimes that, you know, so that's why organization can be helpful, especially with like your palette. You just want everything, when you're in that moment, you want everything to be within arm's reach. Yeah. And then just bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that ties into the flow thing. You're going to stop your flow if you're going to start looking for something for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, of course. And, you know, being organized as a creative must like suck. But you have to do it.
You have to.
You have to do it.
Sometimes you just get fed up with dealing with, you know, a disarray of you know, sounds or whatever, that you just have to.
Yeah, like, but then again, there's people out there that are just wild with it. You know, like one of the guys I've spoken to on the podcast before, his name's Luca the astronaut, and he's an artist, like a visual artist, and he grew up tagging wars and trains and whatnot. Yeah, and then kind of grew into his own art style, and now he makes NFTs.
Nice. Yeah,
and he's very like 10 years ahead on this project. Like, it's going to be this huge media company and it's going to make movies, and it's wild. Like, the way this kid thinks is insane.
It's dope. I have to check him out.
Yeah, 100%. I think you guys would really work well together, honestly.
100%. Sounds like, yeah.
But where I was going with that is that, like, he will create a piece, right? Actually, can you Sian, can you pull up Luca the astronaut's work? I know I've showed it on the air before, but just so you can kind of get an idea of it. And he makes like these characters and these figures, and they all have like 200 to 300 layers of just art to it. And
wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow. That's insane.
Do the stoned ape
cool.
one in the middle. Yeah. The video one. And they all like graphics and they move around, and
that's insane.
Yeah.
Like, he has to see that in his head before he creates that. Like, you don't just, I mean, I'm just assuming, but I wouldn't just, you'd imagine that you just have it all and you just kind of.
Yeah, I don't.
Just comes out of you.
Detail of that. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I've spoken to him about it a million times, and he's like, yeah, man, you just do it. Like, he's very eccentric like that, you know? Like, you just do it, man. Like, it's just, you feel it out and you put music on and you just do it for hours and hours and hours and you get better and better. Like, he's like that.
Well, that's what Joe Rogan keeps talking about. He's like, where do ideas come from? Where do they come from? Like, what is an idea? It's like, does it get given to you, or does it just come out of your subconscious mind? Could be both.
Yeah. And sometimes it's very fleeting, like it's there for a minute and then it's gone forever. And so it's like, when you get that idea, you have to hold on to it and capture it and write it down on something, or because if you don't, it just goes.
Yeah, because I think you can be creative without an idea as well. That's the difference. Like, you could just do stuff and you'll get a result.
Yeah.
And it's subjectively interpreted. But it's not, it didn't stem from maybe an idea. So, but when you get the idea, it's like, generally most of the time it can be like a finished product. that's what I've noticed with my music, is that when you just do stuff for the sake of it, sometimes it can turn into a spark, and sometimes it's just like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it just happens. Like when you get the idea, it just start to finish.
Yeah.
It's a product.
And it's frustrating because sometimes you can sit down and like really intentionally write or, you know, play around on, you know, different platforms, again, whatever your canvas being. What do you use to make music? What platform do you use? Ableton. So you could be on Ableton for hours and hours and really try and grind out some work, and then you look at it and you're just like, what was that? That was like 6 hours just gone for what? And
I do, yeah. I've been live streaming a little bit.
Yeah.
And
what do you live stream on?
it's this dating app. It's called Hilly. It's hilarious because I was on Twitch for a while.
Yeah.
But with this one, you can see their little face.
Yeah.
And you can kind of identify them. So I feel like I'm talking to someone a bit better. And I'm just make tunes and whatever. Just.
Can I ask, how did you discover this Hilly dating app?
And I was just looking for a partner, and so I just downloaded all the apps. I like to like keep my options open in terms of
fair.
Technology these days is a hit and miss. So, you know, like Tinder fell off, and then it was like Bumble and Hinge, and they're all terrible at like, I think with their algorithms, they all end up trying to put everything behind a paywall. So I just go, well, if I have 4 apps, then.
Well, dude, I met a guy that had like every app and he had premium on all of them. He was spending like $100 a month on dating apps.
Honestly, like I just, you know what, I was beginning of the year. I'm like, I'll do Bumble. I'll just do it for a month, just to see how it goes.
Yeah.
It was actually like the worst performing month. I was like, I just got ripped off.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you just like I've had more success with the free version of the same app.
Right.
I think, you know, and they're always trying to get you to pay, but they don't give you a service that delivers.
Surely for someone like you, a creative, you know, a good, tall, good looking guy, clear eyes, your music, you know, you've got music videos out there, like girls eat that shit up, surely.
I mean, like I said before, like a bit of that odd one out, the kind of the black sheep. So I don't know, people might be intimidated by that.
Right.
But also COVID is not conducive to dating as well.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, some people might be killing it, so it might just be me, but yeah, I don't know. So I kind of, it is what it is, you know. I honestly think that it's probably better to just focus on achieving what I want to achieve.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it can really, for some people, for me, take you away from that journey.
It's a time commitment. It's a big time commitment.
I feel like you can't do it all.
No.
Can't have your cake and eat it.
Exactly. It's you know, and I think it also depends, especially someone like you who's so committed to their craft and so deep into it. You need a partner that's going to understand that and understand that you're not always going to be available and that your phone might be off for a while because, you know, you're just in the studio and you're doing your thing, or you're on a podcast, or you're doing an interview with a radio station or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not like you can be accessible all the time. And, you know, it can work. It can happen. Like, big shout out to Sean and Rachel, another kind of NFT couple that have been on the show. And, you know, he says like he's offline for a long chunk of the day and she just gets that. And I think you need someone who will get that.
100%. And it's not that it's just finding the right person. It takes time.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of like, you know, I guess you just gotta, For me, I think that everything happens for a reason. So my last one ended for a reason. I gained the knowledge and the lesson from that to then not maybe settle, or just to really like, because I was starting to prioritize her over my whole career.
Right.
I'm willing to almost be like, yeah, we'll get married, and like, so that means I need to get a job now, and like I need to like do all the adult things.
Yeah.
And then my music was just kind of like taking the back seat. and it changes you. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that, but if you don't have the right person that is encouraging that, you know, and understanding what you're about,
Yeah.
obviously you got to understand what they're about. It's mutual, but you know, I mean, I don't know if like dating another artist is like, that might be the worst thing or the best thing
I've
ever.
heard it's really dangerous.
You might get competitive.
Can you imagine you get home from the studio and your girl's just killing it on YouTube? She's got like 3 million streams of a song that's been up for 12 hours and you're like, fucking hell.
I know. That could be yeah. So,
Or even worse, you guys break up and then like you just think all of her songs for the next year are going to be about you.
or you start dissing each other
Yeah.
across social media.
Yeah.
Through content indirectly.
Yeah, like imagine being Pete Davidson after that Ariana Grande breakup. Like Thank You Next. Like that would have sucked.
Oh,
That would have it was at every store, every cafe, every radio station for like a year.
yeah. 100%. He'd probably enjoy it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure he wouldn't be, if the song's good, like, but it's also, yeah, I mean, it's not a very good message.
Thank you
as well.
next. Like, damn, that's rough.
But it's Ariana Grande as well.
Yeah.
So it's going to be like, I don't want to make an assumption, but you know, I'm sure it's just a different world when you're at that elite level. Like you have no, I guess, normalcy. So like a normal relationship just would not be normal.
Yeah.
Everything would be
Yeah, she's
hyper.
going on tour for like 6 months and you're just like, fuck.
Everything's just, you know, sensationalized. And
Do you want to hit that like elite mainstream level?
it's when you said elite, I saw that. That's exactly, I mean, the top
Yeah.
might be a bit too controlled. So
Right.
maybe a Russ level is more inspiring.
I love Russ. As a like artist, he's figured it out.
Yeah, blueprint. Because he has control of his masters. He owns his work, and he did it his way. He didn't rely on a network of a label to push the button,
Yeah.
essentially, and sign you into these deep contracts that, you know, you sell your soul essentially.
Yeah. Have you ever been approached by a company that's just trying to take away all your masters or anything like that? Like, have you had to avoid any of that?
It's just the landscape of the music industry. It's just the level of risk that people want to take is very small.
Yeah.
Unless they can see that you're just about to peak,
Right.
they don't want to put, I can't speak for I can't speak for everyone, but you know, they don't want to take a risk.
Yeah.
It's like anything in business. And because art is art, you can't evaluate a dollar value to art and then therefore project it against risk. You can, to a certain degree. That's why you got pop music, because it's predictable.
Yeah.
And that's why some people really stick to their brand, but then they also get stuck there because it works and they don't know where to go from that, because they've actually carved that in the sense they can't leave.
Unless you're like a titan of the space, like a Drake, for example, right? Like Drake can go and make pop music, but then he can go make a rap album, but then he can go and do drill rap, but then he can just be him, and you know, it feels like whatever landscape he goes into, he just dominates.
You know, Charlie Rocket, he's a manager for like 2 Chainz and all of that.
Yeah, I know Charlie.
And he was telling me a story about, not me.
I was going to say, what?
I was listening to an interview, and he was talking about Drake and how he got invited to one of Drake's parties. This mansion, there's girls everywhere, and there's like, you know, fountain, and it's just like, he goes
Excess. Yeah.
And then Drake was like, come into my pool room, like check this out. And it was a studio. And he goes, amongst all the distractions, he was there making music.
Shut the fuck
And
up.
he was like showing him the next beat. He had that fire. And I related to that, because I'm just like that feeling of, oh, like this is what's coming and it's exciting. amidst all the distractions, he stayed laser focused, and that's the thing as well. He's doing it for the sake of it, for the sake of creating, and that's what keeps you fresh. If you do it for another agenda or another reason, then you're likely to. I don't want to speak for everyone. I'm always putting a disclaimer, but you can run into the risk of being a one-hit pony or a one-hit wonder kind of thing.
Yeah, or just being cliche. You know, like there's a lot of artists out there that have 1 million Instagram followers or have, that blue check mark and, hit 1 million streams or whatever, but like they just fade away within 2 or 3 years because they don't have a core message, they don't have a core audience, they don't really have a purpose, they're just singing what's in trend.
Exactly.
I think, J. Cole actually said that as well. Fuck, he's so smart.
Drop some truth bombs on his tracks,
Yeah, fuck, I can't remember the exact phrasing of it, but it was like, you're going to realize you only got hot because you was writing trends, and then there's a bar after that, but I can't remember it right now.
And that's why the indie artist
1985,
Yeah.
It was a like message to not only Lil Pump, but that was like what was being projected, but like to the entire rap community of these up and coming rappers. It was like warning them, like letting you know, like, hey, you're gonna get hot off TikTok for 15 minutes and it's gonna feel great, but don't go and buy that Benz, don't go and buy that.
It's very tempting.
Rolly. Yeah,
it's very tempting because you can gain success, but you can't keep it. It's not guaranteed to keep it. Even for me, like you see other people blow up quicker because they've adopted a style or a thing that already has been proven and it works.
Yeah.
But I don't know what's going to happen to them after. For me, it's like bamboo. You don't see it for like, 2-5 years?
Yeah.
It's all under the dirt and then it just shoots up.
Yeah.
In like a couple of days or whatever it is. I might be a bit wrong on that, but like the analogy is still the same.
Yeah.
So the things that some of the things that are really great just take a long time to.
Yeah. And of course you want to blow up and you want to be big and you want to get your name out there and you're doing this for a reason, of course.
Yeah.
But I think as well if you do it too quickly, like it really fucking backfires. People that just blow up when they're not ready, like when that cake's like half baked and it's not like fully formed on the inside yet.
It's like the Island Boys. They got half a song. I wouldn't even call it a full song. It's a half a song. Honestly, no hate or disrespect to them. Like they're doing their thing, whatever.
Oh, I'll hate and disrespect them. I don't give a fuck.
But just like they've got half a song and then you listen to the recorded version, it's like fully distorted. It was never finished. And they're going to be writing that half a song forever. They're not making new music, I assume, or...
Oh, they're probably trying to.
And you're going to make so many bad songs in that inception stage. And when you do, and you're at that level, you're not going to want to show anyone that. So you're going to go quiet for a while. I assume. I'm just presuming all of this.
I think they got their 15 minutes. I think... Again, I think it's one of those kind of people that have blown up that doesn't have a core audience, that they're just a meme. They're Bad Baby or they're the Isra 2200 brother. It's just the Island Boys now. It's their turn.
Something about when people just tattoo their face and make ridiculous hair. It must be like a signifier because like 6ix9ine did the same thing.
Yeah, but 6ix9ine, you could make a case that 6ix9ine's still doing it. He had the longevity.
I have no idea because he had some weird shit going on. And he just disappeared off my radar. So
yeah,
but it seems to be a thing with like, it must be just like just a whole lot of attention drawn to that image that people get curious.
Of course, because it's like, oh my God, what did he do to his face? And it's not only the younger generations that's going to see it and go, oh wow, it's the older ones are going to be like, oh, what is he doing? These kids, like there's that attitude towards it. So you're going to cast a wider net. The one exception I will make to that is Post Malone. I think Post Malone has that image, but genuinely makes good music as well.
I think he got just too wrapped up into the facade of it, but he's a very talented artist. Like he can sing and he can do all of he can just create good songs.
Yeah.
But probably got sucked into that kind of
Maybe.
whole life. But I don't know.
Maybe he's just expressing himself. Like that's also a possibility. Like maybe the face tats, he just likes them.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, just things like that. I always know you change your mind on it after 5 years, 10 years. Like I always wanted a sleeve when I was younger. Always.
You
And
do
then
have tattoos though. I did see one before.
Just,
You wanna
yeah.
show the people there just so they can see it. Yeah, just like that.
kind
You'll
of-
be fine.
It's just a guitar with no strings. It's my incompleteness.
That's like a fine art style, isn't it? Like that fine line work, and it's the image is incomplete in a sense.
I wanted to outline my skin more than tattoo.
Right.
I want because I like the way it kind of looks. So rather than just black it out with something, I'd rather just highlight a shape. That's what I
Yeah.
kind of like more about that. But I always wanted a sleeve, and then I changed my mind. And a lot of people do.
Have you seen Jay Alvarez's tattoos?
I know.
Sound, can you search him up? Jay. I think you would have a very similar style to him. I may be wrong. First one there.
Jay Alvarez.
Yeah, he's like one of those beach boys that makes a lot of art and stuff, but he does like YouTube videos and do the one with the dog. You can see his arms there pretty clearly.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not like a huge fan of the sleeves that you see, like especially a lot of tradies and stuff have. But this kind of style, I really fuck with.
Yeah, because it's got definition to it. Do you mind if I just quickly take a leak?
Yeah, go for it, man. Go for
Cheers,
it.
bro.
We're back.
We're back.
So we were talking a little bit about the Island Boys.
Island boys, I just tried to make it.
Do you reckon if we gave you the beat, you could do it better than them?
I mean, we could try.
I think you can
I
do
don't
it.
even know what the beat is. It's like
No, me
it'd be the
neither.
fountain of the pool out there.
Yeah, it is just like that, isn't it? It sounds like there's just a tap running. Just say beat, yeah.
Or that'd be the actual. The thing is, they don't really have an instrumental for the song. It was only off that video.
No, but I think there was one done afterwards. Like they did like a semi-production kind of thing. We'll run it. We'll give it a shot.
Let's try it. I'm just trying to survive.
Hang on, Xiang, can you just lower that a little bit?
Can I just get a little bit more in my headphones? Just the tiniest bit. Whoa. Check. Yeah. I'm just trying to survive. Everything I do, while I'm just gonna strive. And for the top spot, I gonna play hopscotch. I gotta go get it or tell them we're live. Nothing else, I'ma tell them what to get it. I don't know, but I'm cocking couple weapons. Yeah, our skin all the shedding. Snake skin, will I tell them I'm fed up? No, now I'm vegan. I'ma tell them, well, I'm going all weekend. Yeah, I'm gonna be flashing like a beacon. Oh yeah, and I'm smelling like you're reeking. I'ma take it with the cinnamon spicy. Everything, will I do it really nicely? Oh yeah, and I tell them what's a nice tea. Yeah, multicolored with chameleon. These beats, well, I'm feeling them. Island boys, well, I'm gonna be off top of them. Honeycomb things, I don't know what I call them. It's like spikes. I'ma tell them, not what I like. Yeah. Don't do it for the hype. No. I'm an island boy. No. But I'm from Sydney. Whoa. Gonna put me on the map. I'ma tell them, slow down. Don't you know where you're going? To tell them I'm flowing. I know that these trees that I'm blowing, but I'm not talking all my marijuana growing. I'ma tell them what I need. Everything I do, well, I'm dripping with the feed. But I'm not on the Instagram. I tell them, oh yeah, well, I get the grams, but I'm talking about chameleon paint, not the grams that I used to weigh in my scales. Hey.
Buzz.
Bang, bang.
Take that, Island Boys. Suck our dick. That was fire. That was fucking good, bro.
I try.
You've got a very casual style about you.
It was the beat though. I don't know. It could be different. If you put a different beat on, it could be vastly different.
But it almost seems effortless from you. And I think that's what's really interesting about your music as well, and the stuff that you do put out there, is that it feels like you're making the music, but it's very casual in a sense. Like it's just very flowy. And your ability to translate into, you know, like I mentioned before, that you do like a lot electronic music, but then you do like a melody, and then you do a rap, and it's not just one style, but you have that signature across the board.
I'm the true island boy with that lax flow. I just don't have the hair.
Yeah, I think maybe that's the move.
Just get the what's it called, Liberty spikes, and then we're sweet.
They look like the COVID spike proteins.
I don't know if you remember Tony Hawk. You could get the. Did you ever play that?
Yeah, that's right. You could do that.
Liberty spikes. But that was way better. There's actually some definition in it.
Yeah.
Because I
think we should do this. I say we rerun the podcast, but we'll do it with this hair.
Let's do it.
Would you do it? You down?
I might.
How do you even get that? How? I don't understand.
It's a lot of glue.
Yeah, it has to be, right? Like it must be mixed with cement or something. Like what happens when they shower? He looks sad because his hair's flopping.
Well, it's a typical dread, isn't it? It's a dreadlock.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because it gets glued together and they have to cut it off. And they've probably not thought it out that well.
Yeah, probably not. Well, I mean, look, bro, they're doing fucking cameos now. You know, like that's their whole business model. It's like you get a message from the Island Boys. I don't see J. Cole doing cameos.
They got to make money somehow.
Yeah. But if you can't get it through the art, then how do you do it? Yeah, I guess.
You got to diversify. I think monetizing an artistic career is the big, dollar sign question.
So do you have a strategy for that?
Just keep going until something happens.
Right.
Throw shit against the wall until it sticks. But also like getting into like advertising a bit and marketing and learning the business side. Because I feel like that's quite important because, some people say it's 50-50 art to business.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm probably more of a 65 to 35 kind of ratio. But you need to know how to market and brand yourself to have, and if you've got money, you can pay someone to do that.
Yeah.
So if you don't, you just got to learn how to do it yourself. But that comes with like a variety of skills. You know
what's really interesting in the art space in particular is, and I know a lot of people are going to roll their eyes when I bring this up, but NFTs.
Yeah, I've been hearing about that. Non-fungible
tokens.
I thought it was fundable. It made more sense, but fungible.
Fungible. Yeah. Really interesting because initially it started as like painters and, graphic designers and whatnot, but I've been hearing rumors lately of like Tory Lanez dropping an album that is just an NFT. And so in order to gain access to the album, you have to get it through as an NFT.
Does that mean you have to purchase it through like an app?
Yeah, I guess so. Like you'd have to get it through OpenSea. I haven't been through the logistics of the whole thing and how it actually works. But I guess, if you're one of the early adopters of it, perhaps you get like a cut of the revenue. I think it was something like you made $1 million just like that. It's lifting it as an NFT.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works. It's like crypto. I just know nothing about it, but it's this kind of interesting thing to look into, especially as an artist.
As an artist, I think it's really powerful. It's putting the power out of these huge corporations, these huge, promotions and agencies that, going to take such a hefty cut of everything that you earn. And like you said before, they're going to own your masters. And the only way you're going to make money is touring, but touring is exhausting. And you see it all across the board. And a lot of artists will talk about that quite openly.
I think why it is so... Could I just get the headphones down a little bit, please? The reason that it's probably catching on, not only the technology, but is that now everything's like streaming and subscription, that no one really owns anything anymore. So people have a chance to actually take part ownership in a creation, not just support it by purchasing it, but like have an actual ownership in that. And especially now, it's like Adobe, will never own that. You'll pay that over 50 times. The Creative Cloud, you know, you just want to own a piece of software and then be done with it.
Yeah.
So, and you can do that with art now. So, and that actually helps the artist create more art.
Yeah,
it goes to them.
Of course. I mean, I think your initial wave is always going to be your diehards, right? Like your hundreds super fans that will just, follow you wherever you go and whatever you do. But then as that builds momentum, you're going to have other people that just want it for the utility that you provide. In your case, it's the music.
100%.
And it's just that snowball effect over time.
Yeah. I got to look into it more. I started to look into it, but I think I was looking at this website called Rally. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No, I haven't.
It was for musicians but there was no one I knew on there. So, I mean, so you just kind of taking a gamble on someone that might blow up.
Yeah.
But it would take, obviously, if I was doing it properly, if I had some more time, sit down, research every artist, see potential and...
Yeah, or be a creator yourself and perhaps distribute your music through that sense as well.
Yeah, I have no idea how to do that, but...
Look, I'm having Sean, who's like my NFT guy, come in a couple of weeks. So we'll have that conversation. And
yeah, sweet.
see if we can make that connection happen.
Yeah, because that's a whole nother world for me.
Yeah. Well, I think it puts a lot of power in your hands. I think it puts a lot of that unpredictability and that risk that we were talking about earlier, and it takes it aside.
100%.
You know.
And it works. It ties in well with like independent artists as well, I think.
Yeah. I would not be surprised if Russ within the next year was putting out NFTs or albums as
365 songs as NFTs.
Yeah.
A song a week.
Yeah, a song a week, right? That was wild. Wild.
That takes some major planning and consistency. Honestly, consistency, excuse me. Consistency is king.
Yeah.
I think just having that routine, just priming that pump.
And it was like not all of his songs were great. Some of them were okay, but then every once in a while he just hit this gold mine, and you just be like, holy crap, like he did that in a week.
And I think it takes a bit of the pressure off because like not everything is having to be perfect or a hit. Like people can kind of, he just puts everything out. So, well, not everything, but so as an artist, it would take the pressure off. Like for me, it has to be perfect kind of thing. So if you just, some people put out unfinished tracks.
Paralysis by analysis.
Yeah. So he's figured it out. He's tapped into it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man.
I fuck with it. I fuck with it a lot. So have you got anything coming up soon?
I've got 2 tracks in the works, 3 tracks. Just depending on what order I put them out. One's called The Message, one's called Uber, and the next one is called All I Need. So they're vastly different.
Yeah.
You might think it's a different artist. I was kind of tossing up, should this be another alias? I'm always like, should I separate it? Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Just
put it out there, man.
Just put it out there.
Just put it out there for sure.
100%.
Absolutely. Well, let's put on one of your more recent ones. Which one's your favorite right now? And it's a tough because they're all like your babies, right?
No, All I Need would not be on. It's not out yet.
No, it's not out yet. Just go on XMPLA's YouTube page, Sian. Yeah, the first one there.
Honestly, yeah. My favorite.
Yeah.
If you go click into the channel, and then go to Soft Touches.
Soft Touches.
So that's on the left, second row on the left.
The yellowy one.
Yeah.
There we go. Let's hear it, man.
So this is a remix.
Right.
Animal Feelings.
It's always been that way with you and me. You give me direction and I give you my confession. You know what it is and we both need soft touches. I'm not gonna let you go. Soft touches.
I really rate that.
I'm not gonna let you go.
Really rate that.
Soft touches.
All right, so let the people know where to find you. YouTube, Instagram, the whole lot.
You can find me at XMPLA.com.au. That's XMPLA.com.au. Or / all my handles is Exemplar or Exemplar Music, but Insta's Exemplar. So,
Aaron, it was a pleasure to have you, man.
thank you so much, man.
I appreciate your time. I appreciate your energy. I appreciate what you're putting out there for the people.
Appreciate you having me, man. It's honestly a blessing, and it's inspired me to keep creating, honestly.
Yes, 100%. We want to see it.
Thanks, bro.
All right, guys, that's it.